Stop gripping so tightly for just 1 second. Just let go. Stop trying to convince everyone of your worth. Stop chasing people who aren't even looking for you. Have you ever felt like you were throwing yourself against a door that just won't budge? It is exhausting, isn't it? You push and you pull. You pour every ounce of your spirit into making something happen. And yet the harder you try, the further away it seems to get. Most of us spend decades learning this the hard way. We end up with bruised knuckles and broken expectations. We carry this heavy exhaustion that comes from trying to force the world into a specific shape. But here's the truth you need to hear. The force itself is the problem. The trying is exactly why you are failing. Your grip is the reason things keep slipping through your fingers. Think about the conversations you have every single day. There is a strange paradox living at the center of them. It is in every relationship you build. It is in every deal you try to close. It is even in the arguments you try so hard to win. Most people never even notice it is there. They just feel a heavy weight dragging them down. They feel like an invisible current is constantly pulling them sideways. They want to be understood, but people seem to hear them less. They hold on tight to a person or an outcome, but that thing just fights to get free. The louder you make your case, the more the person across from you plants their feet and refuses to move. We have all been that person at the dinner table. You know the one. You keep over-explaining your point until you see the other person's eyes glaze over. You have been the one who sent that follow-up message just a little too quickly. You felt your enthusiasm cross an invisible line into desperation. You could feel the conversation tilting away from you, even as you poured more energy into trying to save it. So what did you do in that moment? If you are like most people, you pushed harder. You spoke faster. You doubled down on the exact strategy that was creating the distance. You thought more effort would close the gap. But in reality, more effort was just digging the gap wider. What if the whole approach has been upside down from the start? What if the real secret to being heard is knowing when to stop talking? What if the fastest way to draw someone closer is to stop reaching for them? Today, we are exploring the deep mechanics of human psychology. These aren't just tricks. They are principles rooted in the architecture of how desire is born. They are about how trust is actually earned. These ideas will change how you walk into every room. By the way, welcome to Elite Summaries. We are so glad you are joining us today. If you want to master these psychological secrets and change your life, make sure to subscribe. It helps us bring you more in-depth content like this. Let's dive back in. The most direct path between two people is almost never a straight line. Sometimes the shortest distance is stepping backward. It is the quiet act of releasing the thing you want most, so it finally has room to come to you. Human beings are drawn magnetically toward what appears to be moving away. We are pushed reflexively away from what is rushing toward us with too much hunger. This is how the human nervous system reads the world. We assign value based on scarcity. What is rare feels precious. What is everywhere and shoved into our hands feels suspicious. If something might disappear, it feels urgent. If it will wait forever, it feels ignorable. Think about the last time someone wanted something from you too badly. You could feel the wanting radiating off them like heat from pavement in the summer. Maybe it was a colleague who needed your approval. Every sentence they spoke was slightly too eager. Maybe it was a salesperson whose desperation was transparent. Every word out of their mouth made you trust them less. What happened inside you? You felt a quiet desire to step back. You needed space to breathe. The wanting itself triggered a feeling of pressure. And where there is pressure, your mind tells you to protect yourself. Now think about the opposite. Think about the person who seemed genuinely interested, but was fine if things didn't work out. They had a quality of quiet completeness. They didn't depend on your approval. In their presence, you probably found yourself leaning in. You became curious instead of cautious. The absence of pressure gave your own desire room to grow. When someone needs you, the power flows to you. But when they don't need you, something different activates. Suddenly, you are the one who might be left out. The ancient fear of exclusion kicks in. This is why the most magnetic people aren't the ones trying the hardest. When we feel our freedom to choose is being limited, we push back. The restriction itself becomes the advertisement. This is why banning a book makes it a legend. This is why classified information feels so valuable. In relationships, the scarcity of someone's attention increases its value. If someone is always available and always responsive, they cannot be longed for. And longing is an essential ingredient of desire. Try the power of selective availability. Don't be on tap for everyone. Have actual priorities. This transforms how people experience your presence. You can also use gentle discouragement. Instead of recommending a choice directly, suggest it might not be right for them. Suggest it might require more commitment than they are ready for. Watch as they start to sell themselves on the idea. Internal desire is 1,000 times more powerful than external pressure. Remember Newton's third law. For every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. Psychology follows this same rule. The harder you push against someone's position, the harder they push back. Pressure is experienced as a threat to autonomy. When the mind feels threatened, it locks down. Think about a family dinner where a relative tries to correct your political views. Their voice rises and their patience thins. Did you ever feel like reconsidering? Probably not. Your position probably hardened like concrete. You reached for counter-arguments you never even thought of before. Instead of pushing, try genuine curiosity. Become sincerely interested in why they believe what they believe. Ask real questions, not rhetorical traps. When people are given space to examine their own thoughts without judgment, they often find the flaws themselves. Most of our positions are held out of habit. We hold them like old furniture. But when someone invites us to look at the furniture in good light, we might realize it doesn't fit anymore. Acknowledge what is strong in their view first. When a person feels genuinely seen, their armor comes off. Real leadership often looks like following. We are taught that a leader stands at a podium giving orders, but the most durable leadership leads from the side or behind. It produces genuine commitment, not just compliance. This is the principle of self-attribution. When people feel a choice was truly their own, they become deeply committed to it. It becomes part of their identity. Don't tell people what to think. Ask questions that lead their thinking in productive directions. Create a space where the best choice feels natural and inevitable. Every form of emotional manipulation depends on your reaction. Without your reaction, the manipulation is a fishing line in an empty lake. This is the law of emotional stillness. It isn't about suppressing your feelings. Your emotions are valid information. But there is a power in the gap between feeling and showing. In that space, you have a choice. You can react automatically, which is what a manipulator wants, or you can respond deliberately. The person who can predict your response has an advantage. When the expected reaction doesn't come, their playbook becomes useless. Meeting fire with fire is usually a mistake. It moves the conversation into raw emotion where clear thinking disappears. Try grounded stillness instead. Acknowledge the temperature without matching it. This shows you haven't been destabilized. This is especially powerful when someone uses uncertainty to control you. If you develop a tolerance for the unknown, their leverage dissolves. The next, remove the need for resolution, and the power of the silence vanishes. Sometimes you have to lose a small battle to win the war. Most people fight for every inch of territory as if it's all equally valuable. They defend the small points with the same ferocity as the major principles. They end up exhausted, and the relationship ends up diminished. Use the principle of reciprocity. When you give a concession, the other person feels a push to give something back. This drive is wired into our social operating system. But a concession is only strategic if you give up something that costs you little, but matters to them. Surrendering the small points can unlock the heart of the matter. Imagine a disagreement about a project. One person insists on the timeline, the other on the approach. If one person concedes the timeline, the tension dissolves. The other person now feels the need to give ground on the approach. This isn't weakness. It's sophistication. The person who is always right doesn't build credibility. They erode it. Perfection is a performance that triggers suspicion. Admitting an error builds a reputation for honesty and self-awareness. The most effective influence is invisible. Direct persuasion activates a filter of skepticism. People start asking, "What are they trying to get me to do?" The law of the planted seed works differently. Introduce an idea through a side door. Mention it in passing or embed it in a story. Let it enter the other person's thinking so gently that when it blossoms, they think it was theirs. There is no resistance to an idea that feels native. Try the art of the passing mention. Drop an idea like a stone in a pond and move on. I heard about a different approach that worked well for a colleague. Don't pitch it, just leave it floating. If it resonates with a problem they are having, they will reach for it. You can also use the method of reflected success. Share a story about someone else who took an action. The story contains the idea, but it doesn't trigger defenses. If the idea is right, it will take root on its own. We discover who we are in the eyes of others. This is the law of the generous mirror. The way you see someone shapes how they see themselves. This is one of the most profound gifts you can give. Researchers found that when teachers believed students were about to have an intellectual breakthrough, those students actually performed better. The teacher's belief changed their behavior. They called on those students more and were more patient with them. The students rose to meet that generous perception. This works in every human context. The most influential person in your life was likely someone who saw a potential in you that you hadn't found yet. The mind begins to orient toward a generous reflection. Use precise recognition. Instead of vague praise, name exactly what you saw. I noticed how you adjusted the tone of that meeting with just one question. Being specifically seen is transformative. Articulate potential. Tell people what you see them becoming. This isn't pressure, it's a mirror.
Value is intimately tied to scarcity. Think about the faucet in your kitchen. You use it every day without thinking. But if you turn the handle and nothing comes out, it becomes the most important thing in your house. Don't let your presence become like that faucet. Always being available removes the space where appreciation grows. Space is where the other person has the room to notice your absence. It is where they feel the shape of the hole you left. This is especially true in professional and romantic relationships. The person who makes someone else their entire focus doesn't strengthen the bond, they suffocate it. Desire needs room. Attraction needs mystery. Have a life that is genuinely yours. Show up to a relationship from a place of fullness, not emptiness. The consultant who is always available erodes the perception of their value. The one who is in demand and has other commitments creates a quality of perceived worth. Frame control is the silent ruler of every conversation. Most people focus on their arguments, but a brilliant argument in a bad frame will lose. The person who defines the terms in the first few minutes shapes the ground. If you define a talk as being about long-term value instead of short-term cost, you've already tilted the landscape. In a relationship conflict, if the frame is, "Who is at fault?" it will produce blame. If the frame is, "What we both need to feel good," it becomes problem-solving. If someone else sets a bad frame, step outside of it. I think we are looking at this through a lens that won't help us. This move lifts the talk to a higher level. Use anchoring questions to establish a frame. What would this look like in 5 years? This forces the mind into a new perspective. There is no such thing as a frameless conversation. Either you choose the frame deliberately, or it is established by whoever speaks first. The human brain is a prediction machine. When things match the prediction, they are processed as noise. But when a prediction is violated, the attention system lights up. Impact is created by the gap between expectation and reality. This is why the strategic management of expectations is a vital skill. Practice deliberate under-promising. Set expectations slightly lower than what you intend to deliver. When you exceed them, the positive surprise creates a massive emotional impression. Break the patterns that make you invisible. If you are always predictable, people stop paying attention. Do something bold and unexpected. Reversing negative expectations is the most powerful move. When someone expects conflict and encounters kindness, It rewrites the story they were telling themselves. Stories rewritten in moments of surprise stay rewritten. Real strength is revealing your cracks. We spend so much energy hiding our mistakes because we think people will trust us less. But the opposite is true. We know that flawless surfaces are performances. We trust people who have scars. The person who says, "I failed at this many times before I got it right," makes us feel safe. They make us feel we are dealing with a real human being. Wisdom that comes from scars is more credible than wisdom from a textbook. But be selective with your vulnerability. Don't just dump insecurities on people. Share specific imperfections that serve a purpose. There is a difference between "I am currently falling apart" and "I went through a period where I fell apart and here is what I learned." The first is a crisis. The second is wisdom. A leader who shares a mistake from their past demonstrates humility and resilience. It makes the listeners feel they are in the presence of someone genuine. In every relationship, there is a relational account of goodwill. Most people spend this account on small, meaningless battles. They insist on their choice of restaurant or their version of a story. They claim the small victory, but withdraw from the account of goodwill. The law of the deferred victory is about being generous with the small things. Let the other person have the win on things that don't actually matter. This builds a history of generosity. Then, when a truly important moment arrives, you have a deep balance of goodwill. When you say, "This one really matters to me," the other person listens differently. They aren't obligated. They are responding to a pattern of care. The person who wins every small battle finds themselves with an empty account when the big stakes arrive. Letting others win the small things is the long game of relational wealth. Everything you send out comes back. This is the returning tide. If you send out genuine respect, it becomes the atmosphere you breathe. If you send out real generosity, a network of support grows around you. Manipulation, even if it works in the short term, erodes the very thing it tries to build. It sends a message that you don't trust natural human exchange. People feel that unease and they pull back. The most effective way to move through the world is to be someone worth following. Stop trying to force every outcome. These laws are an invitation to be more patient and more intelligent. They are an invitation to move with the grain of human psychology instead of against it. Stop performing power, and genuine power will become available to you. The tide is waiting. What are you going to send out today?